While we are getting the top table ready for the panel discussion, I take this opportunity to introduce our esteemed panel, after which I'll be inviting them on the stage. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this session of panel discussion, we will explore the crucial role of cutting-edge technology on ensuring the safety and security of our nation. Today, we are honored to have with us our distinguished moderator, Mr. Vikram Tewatia, Deputy Director General, COAI. Let's put our hands together to welcome Mr. Vikram Tewatia onto the stage. I invite our panelist, Shri Manoj Tandon, Director, Project Operations and Maintenance, RailTel Corporation of India Limited. He's not there? Okay. I would like to invite Brigadier Gaurav Jain, Sena Medal, Brigadier Operational Information Brig Systems, Indian Army. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Mr. Prashant Oberoi, Director, India and SAARC, Norden Communications. I warmly welcome Mr. Kapil Kapoor, Strategic Pursuits Leader, Google Distributed Cloud, Google Cloud, JPAC. Warm welcome. Invite Shri A.S. Pandey, Group General Manager, IT and CISO, Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited. And Brigadier Vivek Verma, Retired Senior Research Fellow, the United Services Institutions of India. Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished moderator, Mr. Vikram Tewatia, Deputy Director General, COAI, is a leading voice in the ICT and telecommunications industry. And COAI is India's leading industry association for telecom, broadband and digital services. He interacts extensively with the ICT industry leadership and senior officials at Department of Telecommunications, Ministry of Electronics and Telecommunications, TRAI and other government offices for regulatory and policy matters. Our eminent panelist, Brigadier Gaurav Jain, Sena Medal, Brig Operational Information Systems, Indian Army, has vast experience in operational domain by virtue of serving in field areas at various command and staff appointments. The officer is currently in charge of developing operational applications for Indian Army, including the battlefield surveillance systems. On the panel, we have with us Mr. Prashant Oberoi, Director, India and SAARC Region, Norden Communication, is a seasoned professional with over 25 plus years of experience in the networking and surveillance field, with an illustrious portfolio encompassing a multitude of distinguished and diverse undertakings, coupled with extensive expertise. Mr. Prashant seamlessly blends an impressive track record with a profound ability to educate and impart invaluable insights within the team of the surveillance industry. On the panel, we have with us for this session Mr. Kapil Kapoor, who is an experienced public sector and enterprise vertical business leader with over 21 plus years of domain and industry knowledge in tech, IT and telecom across the government, public sector and enterprise business. He's a business leader with experience of end-to-end ownership of large ticket deals, PLN responsibility, partner management and alliances. Presently, he is the strategic pursuits leader, Google Distributed Cloud, Google Cloud, JPAC. And we have with us Mr. A.S. Pandey, Group General Manager, IT and CISO, Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited, who is an ICT professional with extensive cross-domain experience in the field of telecommunications, information technology, cybersecurity, project management, public policy and regulation, with demonstrated leadership abilities over 22 years in spearheading and motivating geographically dispersed and diverse teams and successfully and timely completion of mission critical team in a YUCA environment. And ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Brigadier Vivek Verma, retired Senior Research Fellow, the United Service Institution of India, who is an alumnus of National Defence Academy, Pune, and Defence Services Staff College, Wellington. Brigadier Vivek Verma was commissioned in the Regiment of Artillery in 1989, and he has over 3 decades of active service experience across all terrain and operations. So those words of introduction, I hand over to our session moderator. Over to you, sir, to kindly take over the proceedings of the session. And we have approximately about 50 minutes, sir. Over to you.
All right, thank you very much. So this is the last session of the day, and I'm sure, there's a huge overload of stuff. I'll just begin by requesting all the subalterns at the back. Folks, just step up. Why don't you just come up and fill up the empty chairs up ahead? It'll give us panelists a better feeling. यहाँ भी आप लोग पीछे बैठे हो, थोड़ा आगे आ जाओगे, हमें अच्छा लगेगा. Thank you very much. And while you're taking your seats, all the young men, young engineers, I think you are going to be manning the future networks. All the, the flag officers here are not going to be around for too long. This is for your future. Right, all the digital stuff, so do ask some questions that come to your mind, or whatever you're reading in the media, and what kind of ideas you have in building, with your engineering background, the network, right? So to begin with, I'll keep it a mix of English, Hindi, if that is helpful, right? So we've heard a tremendous amount of, points of discussion. The point is, first is to take stock of what assets do you have as a country, right? It is not just the military assets or the armed forces assets. So when you're talking of building a security paradigm or building comprehensive national power, right? That's what it's all about, essentially. So it is important to take stock of what assets do we hold. Or, in this case, digital assets. So there's been a lot of discussion on digital public infrastructure that you would be there. From a telecom point of view, right? So essentially, there are now in the discussions in, let's say, ITU, or for development of 6G, towards which we are working, is the integration of terrestrial and non-terrestrial, right? Not much has been spoken about the non-terrestrial part. So this is going to happen by the time we get 6G by 2030. And India is actively involved in shaping the standards for building that. I'm trying to give a little, prelude, so that when we come to the discussions, how do you build this comprehensive national, ability to handle whatever? Because the adversary is very often, is just across the border. No, that's not the case. In a digital world, you do not know. It's a global adversary. You can be hit from anywhere. You will not know about it. It's not just somebody sitting, your immediate, neighbor. That's not the case, right? So keeping that in mind, let's say from a CUI perspective, it was mentioned earlier, we are happy to state that globally we've deployed a 5G network with about 4 lakh base stations within a period of 2 years. We were deploying maybe 10,000 base stations each month. And the country has a 5G coverage, right? That's an asset, good advantage, right? The shortcoming is the wireline asset is very low. While the armed forces have benefit with the network for spectrum, you've got a lot of bandwidth now pan-India, but how much of it is getting used is something to focus on, okay? The other asset is that do you have the skill sets? Big question mark there. It got mentioned because all the smart young engineers, the country does not have a model to retain smart talent. If you see many of the global corporations, whether it's a Sundar Pichai or global corporations, and the number of Indian expats. So Indian taxpayer is actually subsidizing, educated people going overseas. So as a country or as the armed forces within your setup, but more so as a country, do you have a model, a policy to enhance that skill set? in a digital world, which you're talking of, India at 47, developed India, right? So these are some of the points to think about. A very important as resource point: how much money are you putting on the table for the armed forces, or to build this comprehensive ability? Essentially, it's about money. A friend from Google is here, right? What is AI about? AI is about money. It's about data center. You build a data center is nothing about storage. It's about power supply. It's about land. I think there was a mention of power supply in the beginning. It's about cooling those data centers. So when Sam Altman was asked, where is India in AI? I heard a lot of AI mention about, AI, ML. Essentially, it's about money on the table. And let's say there were people, as part of the planning, all these senior officers from the tech cycle for a 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G. The tech cycle is getting shortened. Are you changing your policies in financial planning or allocation of budgets to be in pace with the global tech cycle? Right? So these are some points which are for consideration. Thanks, old colleague. So he's building all the industrial highways nowadays. With that, I'll just turn around. We have a very good, panelist experience on how China has done it. Right? So Brigadier Vivek, what does the future look like? Yes. Go ahead and share your thoughts about future. Your wish. I mean, we are constrained for time, but
just take 5 seconds.
Okay, cool.
Can I have the PPT, please? Thank you, Chair. I'll just take 5 to 7 minutes to say what is the future operating environment and next generation surveillance requirement which is there. And as Chair mentioned, there is a need to build a comprehensive security system for securing the nation. It is not functioning.
Next, go.
Next. Go next. ये काम नहीं कर रहा. काम कर रहा है? Okay, thank you. So if you look at the future conflict scenario which is there, this George Orwell said that in 1945 that there is going to be enduring conflict which is going to take place after the nuclear bomb which is there. So today we are having 180 conflicts spread over 59 countries. And what we see is that the more number of crimes, deaths which are happening than the deaths due to conflict. And if you look at the statistics which is there between 22 to 23, there's almost 50% drop in the casualty which has happened from the conflicts. However, the number of conflicts which is going as per the crime is increasing. So what is the surveillance requirement? There is a need to strengthen both internal and battlefield surveillance. When we look at, there is a contact and non-contact paradox which is playing out. Clausewitz said there is no limit, logical limit to use of force. And he didn't know that there is a nuclear explosion which is going to happen and World War II is going to happen. And since then, the world has been living under the overhang of nuclear warfare. So when we look at how the complete conflict area is being generated is through the US National Defense Strategy, which talks about compete, that is two leading powers, which are the Russia and China, deter the rogue nations, which is Iran and North Korea, and win against the terrorism which is there. So the campaigns are designed, when you look at Russo-Ukraine conflict, the campaigns are designed to be response measured, calibrated, and restrained. What is happening is that when we look at 1,000 days of Russo-Ukraine war, you find that most of the happenings are happening in the non-contact arena. However, the contact relevance is always there because contact phase is deciding the national will and identity. Winning along each ladder is essential, and reliance is on intelligence-based operation and proportionate use of force. And that is why the surveillance becomes that much important. What is requirement is that we need multi-domain surveillance across traditional and non-traditional security scenarios. When we look at the actors, the multiple actors which have added, 61, there were 4, only probabilities was 6, and now you see there is multiple probabilities of any miscalculation happening. And therefore, there is important that the situational awareness should be of the highest quality. What is happening is that while we are preparing for the nuclear options, people are also preparing for non-nuclear deterrence. And non-nuclear deterrence is happening primarily with cyber, and also we are now seeing the biomaterials in form of synthetic biology which is being developed. So what is the surveillance requirement? We need to monitor all the actors and also the business processes. That means right from the sourcing of item to how the production is happening. Everything will have to be put under surveillance. This is a list of technology companies which were there. When we look at 24, except for Saudi Aramco, rest all are technology company. Most of them are semiconductors. Most of them are also working on social media and other things which are there. So when we look at it, technology trends which is there, what we are saying, anything which is omniscient can be killed. And therefore, the survival depends on remaining incognito. And that is where it brings the challenges of propulsion system going silent, guidance system, and control system which is there. Therefore, it is very important to create capacity so that we can see through these incognito effects which are being created. Also, we are seeing niche technology like hypersonics, AI, quantum, synthetic biology. They are adding to the system efficiency, but capability to alter balance of power is also taking place. And more importantly, now the balance of power, it is going beyond to balance of influence. Access to digital information has created threats beyond traditional borders, and therefore we need to have assets also looking outside our border areas which are there. Sensor-shooter integration is the demand of the day, and we are also going to witness compressed decision cycle based on the kind of processing system we are creating. Security solutions are no longer the preserve of government alone, and civil-military integration is adding to this complexity. And slowly and gradually, the number of actors when we talk about the civil-military integration and dual-use technology is adding to it. What is also what is also very intriguing is that the technology and anti-technology cycles are playing out, and it is tripping the doctrine. Now we are working towards a technology-induced warfare which is there, and system saturation and system warfare is going to take place. Surveillance requirement is in this arena, when we look at it, is that the OODA loop need to be clear of distortions and disruptions. Sensor-shooter synergy has to be there, and kill chain options look beyond soft and hard kill also into the cognitive frontiers. I'll skip this. The battle, when we come to the next generation surveillance requirement which is there, what we look at the threats which are there, it is from the stable peace to the nuclear war. And when we look at the security domain, as per Xi Jinping, he talks about 14 security domains which need to be guarded, right from political, territorial, military, down to the cyberspace. And what we need is information assurance based on robust C4 ISR. And that means what? We need to be present everywhere. That is ubiquitous. It should be persistent. We should always be there providing the information which is there. The communication which we design needs to be unhackable. And therefore, all the quantum and other things which we are talking about is going to take place. Adaptable, that means there has to be integration between the legacy and the new system which is there. All the systems which we are looking at should have multi-mission engagement, and it should be scalable. When we look at the battlefield surveillance requirement which is there, okay, sir. What I want to say is that when you look at the battlefield surveillance, advanced technology integration is important, comprehensive space-based awareness and sensing is important, and we are looking at C4 ISA for insurance assurance. Better discrimination capabilities and aerial and maritime sensors will be important to us. And when we look at border surveillance, we are looking at multi-mission capabilities that can track various targets, highly mobile and ECM capable. Ultimately, what we need to, when we are devising our surveillance architecture and things which are there, we need to know that these future conflicts are going to dictate what is the strategy which we are going to follow, and the strategy follows structure. Situational awareness will remain a key to operational success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brigadier Vivek. That was, setting it in a great context. With that, before I come to you, Nishant, you have solutions for surveillance, but let me request Brigadier Gaurav Jain to articulate, he's working, he's the actual hands-on person working to identify the surveillance requirements of the armed forces. For you, Brigadier Jain.
Good afternoon, esteemed panelists and audience members. Thank you. It's an honor to be here to discuss the topic that is revolutionizing the modern warfare, that is next generation battlefield surveillance system. In today's rapidly evolving geopolitical climate, the ability to monitor, analyze, and act in real time has become a decisive factor in military success. Human mind has always been intrigued with the question as to what lies other side of the hill. So that question still remains, whether it be it military life or be it civil life. I'll request my young colleagues who are sitting behind to be slightly attentive. This question may come in your staff college exam or in JC.
I like that. It's too far away for them. They still haven't.
Okay. So it is interesting. So pay some attention to it. Importance of battlefield surveillance, very basic. It is the backbone of modern military operations. It ensures real-time situational awareness, minimizes blind spots, and enhances decision making. Unlike traditional methods, today's system provides unprecedented precision and speed, enabling us to detect threats, identify targets, and neutralize them before they escalate. These systems are also critical for counterinsurgency operations. So what are the key technologies which are shaping this next generation battlefield surveillance? Some of these have been covered by Brigadier Vivek. So I will cover some others. Drones and UAVs, we are all familiar. Unmanned systems like drones provide real-time intelligence while reducing risks to personnel. High-altitude drones can monitor vast areas, while smaller tactical drones are used for localized surveillance. Artificial intelligence, again, a lot has been talked about. Predictive analysis, your pattern detection, your anomaly detection, all these are being included in the next generation battlefield surveillance. Satellite imaging and sympathetic aperture radar, these allow all-weather day-night surveillance, making them indispensable for large-scale operations in remote areas. The Internet of Military Things. IOMT connects sensors, UAVs, and command systems, creating a seamless flow of information. It ensures that ground units, air support, and commanders have synchronized intelligence. Some of other techniques which have been talked in the morning: facial recognition, automated license plate recognition, smart sensor to detect motion, sound and environmental changes, triggering cameras to focus on specific areas. Automated alerts with notifications. Advanced analytics, wherein we can quickly swift through large amount of data and get into meaningful data. Some of the challenges which are of course there is the cyber security, the cost. For cyber security, we are looking at post-quantum cryptography. Looking at some of the other things like swarm drones, miniaturization of sensors, AI-powered autonomy systems that can operate without human intervention, reducing response time significantly, and edge computing. Now coming on to the system which we are looking at. So battlefield surveillance is a mobile automated surveillance system capable of integrating inputs from all battlefield surveillance devices. Now, as we are aware, there are a plethora of surveillance devices which are deployed on our borders. That includes right from the human to the UAVs and drones. Your thermal devices like LOROS, TIOE, HSTIs. So number of the IP cameras, all of them needs to be integrated. That challenge has been overcome. We have been able to design a system wherein all these surveillance devices can be grouped together, the inputs can be grouped together, and they can be collated. Okay. So the data from these collected and a situation assessment using MSDF, that is fusion, multi-sensor data fusion, and displays the tactical picture on the map. Earlier, as you are all aware, we were doing this on a physical map. Now we'll be doing it on a digital map with all GIS features, the latest GIS features. The system also consists of a monitoring center, a communication control unit, a generator, and various monitoring communication terminals. It also acts as a decision support system for the commanders. Once you have this information, it is collated, it gives you a real int, and now all that remains for the commander is to take a decision. Artificial intelligence, it also uses artificial intelligence and information big techniques to identify and assess the position of the target. The voice, video, content and images are sent over a highly secure media. This media could be optical fiber cable or line or radio or satellite. So, this in nutshell is the battlefield surveillance system, which is on verge of now being deployed. The adhocism which was there will get negated, and we will be getting this real-time functioning surveillance system. What we are looking at further to improve upon this is the edge computing, wherein the compute is done at the system itself. A LOROS is connected to the system so that whatever information is gathered, you are getting the desired inference there and then only, rather than going backwards and then get it computed. Another thing which I would like to say is that in artificial intelligence, if we can combine the small language models with edge computing, that will further give us greater dividends. So with this, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you so very much for being patient listeners.
Thank you very much, Brigadier Jain. It's quite interesting that the BSS is going to be rolled out. One of the things, for, having a service background is the trust that the country has and the armed forces have in the industry to work together. That's an area, I heard earlier in the day also, the mutual support to each other and how to build up that support is an important part, I think one needs to address. With that, I'll come to Prashant, because, you are the surveillance solution company. So over to you, your thoughts.
Yeah. Okay, we heard, we were talking about surveillance. Obviously, surveillance, when we are talking different perspectives to it, what we are into is electronic surveillance, the CCTV and the AI is a lot of word we are continuously using is AI. So typically, what do we do exactly is a couple of things which Sir said in his presentation, that object anomaly or if there is any scene change in that particular field area, or Sir gave few examples. All those things are practically can be done not using any third-party equipment now. It can be part of the camera system itself, the hardware itself. That's what the new generation processors are, which are being used, SoCs which are being used in these products are capable of, and those capabilities can be inbuilt. Like just an example, what we are trying to do, in fact, what we are about to launch sometime in next quarter, though it may not be very relevant for defense, that example which I am giving, but that is just an example. So there could be different kind of IoT sensors sir was talking, right? So it depends which kind of IoT sensors you people require, but right in the city there is different sensors which are being used as like temperature sensor, humidity sensor, or a LoRaWAN module, or a eSIM module. Now when we put this, nobody as of now has thought, shall we integrate this inside the particular system itself so as to reduce. What is that we are reducing? Can anybody make a guess? If I suppose if I put one of this IoT module inside the camera itself, what is that exactly would we achieve? I would probably like to hear from any one of you. What do you think it will achieve if I put that module into the camera system itself? What will be the value addition? Multiple sensor integration. Yes, one. Ease of integration, I would put it, yes, one. But what would be even bigger? The size will reduce. No.
He'll give you a solution on the spot.
Everything, all of the things which you are saying, answer is yes, first. However, the biggest thing is, a lot of e-waste will be reduced. Because putting one extra external sensor means I need one extra switch port. I need separate power provisioning for that. I need a separate mounting arrangement for that. Whereas if this gets integrated in this, I am saving all of this. So in the long run, we are reducing the carbon footprints, we are reducing the e-waste as well. So these are very different, and obviously a cost is a factor in any case, and you are making a device smart, all that, integration ease, everything is there. But this is one single largest factor which came to our mind, that what is that we are contributing, because in any case I am not doing anything different. The external IoT sensor is also going to do the same job. Except for ease is one which sir said, which came to our mind, and second, huge amount of infrastructure wastage can be reduced, and in the process, a lot of carbon footprints can be reduced. So these are certain advancements are there, and obviously it has to come from people, users, what else we can do, because there will be certain things which we will have in our mind, obviously keeping the commercial aspects into our minds, but users can obviously trigger a lot of discussion, and obviously if there will be a discussion on 10 points, probably a couple of points can be done, few points cannot be done, few points may not be practically possible, few points will not make commercial sense, but I'm sure once the discussion happens, there will be few things which can come up, like this came from our thought process. So these are certain things which are advancements happening, and since the morning we were talking, now it is not only about even any war is not a physical war. There is a lot of communication war is happening. We are talking about space wars, and it's all about ransomware attacks being triggered by, we have heard in the news, obviously these people are more closer to that, and these have been triggered by specific countries to cripple the other country. We have seen, as in the morning, the example of coronavirus was given, whether it was really a biological warfare or not, though it seems to, but there could be situations which could be created, so it won't be only a physical war in the future. All these things will come into picture, and everything, as I say, only AI can negate AI. So we have to be constantly evolving and developing something which can cater to our future needs.
Thank you very much, Prashant. I think that was interesting, some new stuff on, a new angle to IoT being put where. Kapil, before I come to you, let me ping my colleague Pandey and share thoughts. Anything wireless requires oxygen of spectrum, right? So some thoughts on, how to better utilize spectrum, And of course, in your current job, you're seeing a lot. So over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the question. At the outset, it's an honor to be part of this panel where I have the person who taught me ABC of communication moderating the session. And before I answer that pointed question again, a disclaimer, thoughts expressed are personal, nothing to do with any organization that I've served ever in the past or present. So now coming to the surveillance part of it. And the primary object, the four things that was highlighted by Brigadier Mehta, scalability, then information awareness. One thing that among the 9 things that were there, one thing was what I saw was missing was the flexibility part of it. So when you're looking at the and it is catered as part of operations, so that is why probably it was missing there. If you're looking at flexible movement of video streams from anywhere to anywhere, the only option that you have is wireless. And if you're going to go the wireless way, spectrum becomes very important. Learning the hard way, initial days, it was all ISM band. Then suddenly spectrum became a commodity. And commodity in which everybody was interested. And special interest was of the TSP. So Government of India, our armed forces, we gave a 5 + 5 megahertz of spectrum against a particular network. So nobody is wanting to let you use the spectrum at your will. You have come up with a mechanism of DIZ, as you might love to call it, where you have the primacy. But one aspect, especially with respect to spectrum, which has probably got missed out or probably the technology did not support it as much, was supporting the aspect of cognitive radios, where you can still be the primary user because number of transmission that you make is very less, especially in the kind of EPs that you maintain. And the secondary user, who is the commercial interest in the radio, can you continue to utilize the spectrum? Primacy of the spectrum would remain with you. While I'm talking in terms of cognitive radio, the enabling regulation that has come about it is about spectrum sharing. So we can look at spectrum sharing as well with the TSP sitting in the forward areas, or even for that matter in the hinterland, in areas of our own interest. Another issue with respect to spectrum that comes is how much do I cater for? We end up over-provisioning bandwidth, using spectrum and bandwidth over-provisioning as if it is my own property. Now, we need to remember the revenues being churned out of spectrum are humongous in thousands of crores, so it will not be given to you at your will. So the next thing that you need to associate with yourself or keep yourself aware about is while planning this backward movement of surveillance feed is that the network has to be architected optimally, and that has to be bandwidth optimal. So where it can come in your encryptions, which are 263, 264, 265, these standards which are there. And once you use that, you are able to optimally utilize the network that is available to you, lay less strain on the wireless component of it. So that much for the spectrum part of it. So the time permit, we'll talk about the infrastructure part of it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I think spectrum is something which is a very intricate and an important topic. The good news is that 5G by itself has got adequate spectrum currently. In the next World Radio Conference scheduled for 2027, some new spectrum bands are up for discussion to support 6G networks. But with that, I'll come to Kapil. You know, all of us are doing nothing but generating data. And the service that we want is वो डेटा का पसीना कैसे निकालना है ना, उसका निचोड़ कैसे निकालना है. Data आ गया, but and to do that we need this great benefit of storage and analytics, popularly called the cloud. So being a cloud guy, do share that interactions that you've had. I saw in the inaugural section the air gap for defense people, right? Dwell somewhat on that and what solutions you have on offer for the armed forces.
Thank you so much. Firstly, again, thank you for bearing with us. I know it's the last session, so we'll just try and keep it a little more, friendly as well as interactive and a little exciting. And I'm fortunate to be on the panel with esteemed leaders and Brigadier Rajiv sitting there in front. I think today, from a data set perspective, there's so much of data that is getting generated, right? And unfortunately, it's in different formats. And I think Brigadier Gaurav talked about the fact that, they're able to collate data from different sources, right? This could be video data, it could be voice data, it could be, other digital data. So while you aggregate that data, right, and there's a lot of noise in the data, how do you move that unstructured data to a structured format and then it dovetail back into what today, say, the army wants to do, or tomorrow it'll be at an integrated headquarter level, where they will want some actionable insights and how fast you can take decisions, right? I think those are some of the aspects that one should look at. Coming to, I think, what we also talked about earlier in our earlier sessions. So today, there is a public cloud, which is what Google has, and like us, there are other hyperscalers who offer a public cloud. But if I were to limit specifically for the defense forces, obviously none of this sensitive data, whether in whatever format, structured, unstructured, can be on a public cloud. So we worked closely with governments across the globe to figure out what would be the most optimal solution. And that's what now we are getting back into India, what we call the Google Distributed Cloud. It comes in different formats, but I think the key is having the power of a public cloud now available on-premise in front of you with your data on it and in a completely air-gapped mode. Let me just try and demystify that a little bit, right? So today, everybody's talking about AI, capabilities of AI. Why do we need AI? Because you want a machine tool to be able to analyze data quickly and give you actionable insights, right? So you need large language models, you need small language models, you will need multiple things, right? But you can't start building from scratch. So while you can have a compute hardware, but along with that, there are multiple applications, AI, ML ops, RAGs, etc. that are required. Now, if you start building that from scratch, right, it is going to take so much more time and so much more investment. So what we said is, let's get the power of the public cloud on-premise with the capabilities that you would get on the public cloud, however, in a completely sovereign mode. And that's why we actually call it a sovereign solution, because it's completely air-gapped. It has the capabilities, it has the large language models. Let me take an example. Today, there would be huge amounts of drone data, imagery data that will come. Now, either somebody has to go through their entire data to be able to see if there are intrusions that are happening, or if this camera feed that is going to come from, say, various sources, you will need to look and see when the intrusion happened. Now, if you had an existing AI model do that for you in your premise, in a secure environment, in an air-gapped environment, and it keeps getting trained and becomes better and better and more superior, I think that's what is the capability that is required for making the Defense Forces cloud as a modern cloud with the capability to be able to decipher, to get actionable inputs. How does it help? Absolutely. So it helps in making those decisions faster. When you're in a battlefield, you cannot wait for huge amount of data to go back, then somebody takes a decision, right? So it's the same thing. Now, if you have a similar capability at the edge, at the frontier, when you're in a battlefield, I think it changes the perspective of the way you're going to take decisions. I'll give a small example, and this is something which is from a public domain side. Today, I think 40% of people are on Airtel, so they launched a service where they're able to block spam traffic at the switch itself, right? So when you get that alert, it gives you alert to say suspected spam, right? It's an AI model. It has an AI capability, right? So that's the kind of power. So millions and millions of calls that land today on the switch of a telecom provider, they are able to decipher that this is not, this is spam, and they're able to alert you. How does it help? I mean, today the cyber landscape and the threat landscape is becoming so vulnerable that people are getting conned, losing crores and crores of rupees just on some of these aspects, right? The point that I'm just trying to make is that if you have the capability at a technology level, the intervention or the human intervention is then only required to frame, monitor, and use that data or intel to take the right decisions. So today, if you have those capabilities and you're building for the future and you're building a modern, say, infrastructure for the defense forces, I think these are some of the elements that need to be taken care of and incorporated in the way you're building. So if you're going to build a decision support system, which is going to be something that is going to aggregate data from various sources, and if you're going to build some sort of a module around that, it must have the capabilities in it to be able to run through technology and give you actionable insights. And that's where the Google Distributed Cloud solution that we talked about, which is completely air-gapped, has those capabilities inbuilt in it, can be a key differentiator when you're trying to look at modernizing your infrastructure.
Thank you very much, Kapil. That's interesting. This takes me back to the point about, maybe I was discussing with you at the lunch table, about the trust that governments would have in integrating, industry as part of, operational or sovereign functions, right? So with that, I think we'll, not have more discussion among the panelists, but reach out to the audience. So I saw some officers from the mechanized forces. Just raise your hand. There was one officer from the cavalry, Blackberry guy. Yeah. What regiment are you? Sindos, great, very old, nice regiment. Anybody from the mech forces? Anybody other than you? No mechanized guy. Air defense. I saw some air defense people as well. Yeah. Oh, great. इधर सब सिग्नल वाले हैं या नॉन सिग्नल वाले भी हैं? सारे सिग्नल वाले हैं? अच्छा, very good. Okay, to the Sindos officer, tell me, you would have been reading, for many years, self-driving cars, right?
Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on a self-driving tank?
So the self-driving tank is a good concept, but the man on the ground is what counts for the tactical
यार
situation.
ये ठीक है, मैन ऑन द ग्राउंड को तो गायब कर देना है. वो टैंक जो इतना इंटेलिजेंस है, डेटा है, सेंसर है, दुनिया भर का है. So is there a case, do you think that, as a young engineer, to start thinking of automating some parts of the combat group or the combat command or the, I don't know what's the other level, I'm forgetting. But if you can have a self-driving car in a complex environment, so one is a self-driving mechanized vehicle. To the signals people, who are your colleagues sitting there, right? Okay, you have a question. What kind of network would you need to support that? So today, the 4G networks supports a autonomous driving car, right? So think about it. So maybe your man is not going to disappear. Your job is not going to get taken away. But how can we increase the effectiveness of that? Yes, the other gentleman who raised his hand.
Good evening, sir. My name is Lieutenant Yatharth Goswami. I'm from course serial TS42. I'm an artillery officer. And my question to you, it's not a question. You are referring to self-driving cars. But there is a concept called, that we heard in a lecture recently, there is a concept called an army of none. And it is an army that basically China is trying to generate, which is not out in the public domain. So that is something that we need to focus about, because they are creating a database and they are generating data sets from that place, and they are creating an army which is totally self-driven. So that is what I wanted to say to you regarding that.
Interesting. An army that's self-driven. I was just sharing with Brigadier Tandon today. I read an article that China Mobile, right? It's like an Airtel network or a Geo network, or what do you have in the army, AWAN network. The China Mobile network is completely automated. That's the news article. Means no human is running that network. So it's interesting when you're saying what non-human army, or I don't know what you meant, probably something like that. Army of none. But that's interesting. So good. और कोई सवाल इधर से? Any observations? Anybody else? Any of the young guys? So you've just finished engineering. Is the engineering finished or still on? Finished? Marvelous. So, what is the USP of an engineer?
I'm not aware, sir. I'll get back to you, sir.
So you're a very well-trained military man. That's really nice. Yes, absolutely. You'll get back to me, take my mobile number, happy to be in touch with you. Yeah? Okay, so this is what at least I was, while doing postgrad in IIT Kharagpur. Engineering is essentially about the one with the long N. Was that NITA? NITA. Is equal to output by input? Yes? Efficiency is output by input, right? So what does a digital network allow you to do? Or how do countries who are deploying a 5G network or whatever latest network, right? Why are New Zealand apples cheaper in India than Himachal apples? These are just for thinking, right? So essentially, the digital network that the armed forces is deploying, you get the data. Now you got to squeeze the juice out of that data by getting solutions. Let's say for the ordnance, your logistics train is more efficient. For surveillance, it is more efficient, or your medical people. Essentially, you're able as a country, as an organization, to reduce the cost of inputs. So if you reduce your cost of inputs based on the data that you've got, what happens? Does your efficiency go up or not? Yes, no? Bada halka yes bola yaar. So that means I've not been able to communicate it adequately. But essentially, let's say, somebody presented a smart city thing, right? Now, if your sewage management is digitized, right? So efficiency of managing sewage becomes better. So these are things, so in an armed forces context, so if you have a combat group, then combat command, and then combat, it's combat team, combat group, and combat command. So the number of sensors in that, let's say, 50 kilometer by 50 kilometer, you identify the number of sensors, right? What job do they do? What solutions do they provide? What kind of network will they need? So all this 5G, the lab that you went to IIT in Chennai, make them work. Give them a project that this is my requirement. Why can a quarter mile in Amazon? You use Amazon, right? Amazon से order करते हो ना आप लोग? एक कटिंग प्लायर का ऑर्डर दो, आपको पता है किसका कटिंग प्लायर कब गोदाम से निकला, कहाँ पहुंचा, कहाँ डिलीवरी होगा. क्वार्टर मास्टर को ये सॉल्यूशन मिलना चाहिए, yes or no? Then do something about it. Okay. Sir, thank you very much.
Since sir was talking about technology and utilization of technology, and especially in the case of autonomous tanks, your drone swarms and robotic armies, one thing, they're no longer in the realm of imagination and not science fiction. Some of them have already been demonstrated. One technology which was there, and sir, a concept note that I wrote sometime in 2007 when I was doing my MTech, was satellite personal communication network. With the ability of India to be able to launch satellites, microsatellites, and the LEO coming in play, this autonomous warfare without man can be a reality. Up to you, for you people to push it and the leaders to accept it. So that is where I will say. And overlay that with quantum, because that will become inevitable because it's a strategic asset. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the last part of the conversation was the most interesting. So thank you very much for being a very attentive audience as the last session. And please join me in showing your appreciation to all our panelists with a round of applause. Thank you very much, and back to you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, I would request our moderator, Mr. Vikram Tewatia, to kindly do the honors of presenting a token of gratitude and appreciation to all our eminent panelists. We present to Shri Manoj Tandon. He's not here. Oh, I'm so sorry, he's not here. Brigadier Gaurav Jain. Thank you, sir. To Mr. Prashant Oberoi. Mr. Kapil Kapoor. Yes, we've already presented one to him in the morning. To Shri A.S. Pandey.
After all the brickbats that I've seen from you, it's nice to receive this.
And to Brigadier Vivek Verma. And I once again invite Brigadier Anil Tandon onto the stage to kindly do the honors of presenting a token of gratitude to our moderator, Mr. Vikram Tewatia, of this very important panel discussion session on innovation and technology shaping the future of India's defense. Thank you, sir, for wonderfully moderating this session and all the valuable inputs. And I would request our panelists to kindly come together in the front for a group photograph. And ladies and gentlemen, with that, we close the proceedings of this summit. And thanking all our distinguished chairperson, moderators, speakers, and panelists for all those valuable inputs we had from them during the session. And we thank all our partners and sponsors for extending their support to us towards organizing this successful event. And above all, we would like to thank all our participants, each one of you, for your participation in making this event a huge success that it was. Thank you once again, and I would request all of you to have a safe journey back home. Good evening and namaskar.
Nice meeting you. Pleasure. Thank you so much. It was very informative. Thank you.